my first time taking psilocybin mushrooms was certainly an experience to be had, to say the least. Now, this happened, right? We're not even going to waste any time here. We're just going to dive right into it. This happened right after I got out of high school. So I was about, 18. I want to say it happened like somewhere near the end of so I think it was 2016 or no 2015. I'm sorry. So it was near the end of like 2015, and yeah, I had as usual, right? I had a buddy. Now this buddy particularly was definitely known to come across the psychedelics. I mean, it was like pretty much like if you wanted something of that nature, you would typically go to this guy. And me and this guy were pretty good friends at the time. So now, for the sake of the video, we're going to go ahead and call him Michael. And, it's just like any other beautiful day, just having a good old time. And Michael hits me up. And he's kind of telling me, because like not too long before this, we had kind of talked about, oh, we should trip together, because I had never tripped before. I'd never taken mushrooms or acid or anything like that. I had done like a little tiny acid microdose before, I guess, that I really didn't feel anything. So this was going to be my first time like really experiencing it. And, we're talking and he's like, yeah, I can probably get an eighth to you for like, I don't remember how much he charged me or if he even charged me at all, but probably like $20, if even $15 maybe. And that sounded great to me. And so we're talking, and basically I kind of just decided to head on over there and pick him up. And it was not uncommon for us to hang out. So, just kind of wanted to go over there and see the mushrooms and kind of kick it with him for a little bit and talk. And we're kind of like planning out the trip. We're like, oh, well, when should we do this? Let's trip soon, because obviously, like, we got the time, we got the mushrooms. Like, what are we waiting for? And I'm like, honestly, yeah. And so we had like kind of made the plan that this upcoming weekend, we were gonna trip, which I think was like literally the next day or something. So we're like, we're hyped. We're getting ready. We're like, okay, we're gonna need something to eat the mushrooms with, to get it down the hatch. We're going to need definitely a good bit of marijuana. We're going to roll some joints, smoke some bowls. And that should be good. We're really just looking to have a chill trip. And like I said, we both got an eighth. So that was the plan. Both eat 3.5 grams. And yeah, Michael was quite a bit more experienced than me at the time. He had been tripping for many years before me up until this point. So he definitely knew what he was getting into. Now, me on the other hand, the only thing at this point in my life I like have to go off of like what mushrooms are like is that episode of Family Guy where Peter, or not Peter, I'm sorry, where Brian takes those mushrooms and has that like crazy bad trip and sees all those monsters and stuff. Like that's genuinely what I thought psychedelics were. And so like because in school they're like, oh, don't take, these are really bad for you, all this stuff. So like that's just always what I kind of thought they were like. And I don't know what kind of brought me to wanting to do this, but I was like, yeah, it kind of sounds like fun all of a sudden. Like I don't know why, but let's do it. So lo and behold, we got our mushrooms. And the day comes, and basically at the time, I don't think Michael had a car yet, so I went to go pick him up. He was like a little bit younger than me, not much, just like a little bit. So I went to go pick up Michael, and we're like, yeah, what should we get to eat? Like, what are we gonna do with the mushrooms? Like, should we put it in a smoothie, a sandwich? Should we get a pizza? And we're talking for a little bit, and again, our wallets aren't, I mean, back then we were just out of high school and we didn't have jobs or anything. Like we just got money from like selling like little bits of weed here on the side, or like doing random little side jobs. Like we didn't have jobs, so we had no money. So we're like, well, what are we gonna get that's cheap? And we decided on a Little Caesars $5 pizza. So we slide on the legendary, the classic, the infamous Little Caesars. And really, honestly, back then I thought it was pretty good pizza. Like now, my palate has evolved much further, and like I really like have a a decent taste for food. But like back then, Little Caesars was, it was good. So we had our Little Caesars. I hadn't mentioned that I had just got my medical card at this point, so I recently had picked up from the dispensary a little delivery service around here. It was called Mom's Medical. One of the best like old delivery service from back in the day. Like they've been gone for many years. I don't know what happened. They shut down, but they were back in like the Prop 215 days, and so just the quality of the stuff they had for the price was amazing. Like I was getting $20 grams of like really good shatter, and like I don't know, just like $100 ounces of like really good indoor and stuff. So it was like they just had everything, and they always had deals and specials, and like I really liked Mom's Meds. Like that was I even like had a jar. Like I bought one of their jars that like said keep calm, only smoking on moms or something like that. And me and my buddy Michael thought the jar was hilarious. We're like, when people would ask us where we get our weed, we'd be like, oh, from our mom, like no big deal. So anyways, I picked up an ounce of some really fire indoor. Like these packs that I was getting back then were honestly, I think I preferred those packs to today's pack, because like there was like strains like blue cheese and a lot of cheese strains, and like more Blue Dream and sours and stuff like that. I don't know, like I miss those days. But yeah, this pack was crazy, and we had that. Like I said, we got our mushrooms. We're all ready to go. We're off to head back up towards my house, because near my house there's this place that's gathered a local reputation of being called top of the world. Essentially, it's just a really long driveway. Like it is somebody's driveway, but there's kind of multiple houses and stuff, so it's not like totally private. So you can go up it, and as long as you're respectful and stuff, it's okay. But we're thinking like, let's go park up at top of the world. Let's roll some joints. Let's hotbox the whip, play music, look out at because the view is fantastic. You're not going to find a better view in the area that you can just drive up to and park. Absolutely magnificent view for the area. Can't recommend it enough. But again, I'm not gonna give away all the, can't give away all the good secrets. All right? Either way, so we're heading to top of the world, and we're just talking. We're excited. We can't wait to take these mushrooms. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm like, I really don't know what to expect. But, I trusted Michael, and he was really experienced. And he's like, we got nothing to worry about, dude. You're going to have a great time. So, I'm feeling a little better, and we finally get to the top of the world. Now, we park up, and I got to preface this by saying, at the time, I had this, like, little two-door Hyundai Accent. Like, this thing was it was like a little Civic hatchback, Like, this thing was not off-road capable. And we kind of had to like drive it off road a little bit to like get to the best viewpoint. But we're like, this should be fine, because like we're gonna be here a while, and like, worst case scenario, we can just stay here till the trip's over. But this is just like the perfect spot to be right now. I don't know, like, because we weren't really allowed to, like, my mom wasn't cool with weed back then. His parents were definitely not cool. So it's like we wanted to have like a designated location, right, to like stay put at, because we were gonna take 3.5 grams, which is, it's a decent amount. It's not a microdose by any means. So, we're parked up. We're rolling up. We got the Pete's out. Michael's grinding up the mushrooms. He's sprinkling the mushroom dust all over the pizza. And not the entire pizza. I got to, again, like, just give a little bit more info on this. Like, because we weren't trying to eat a whole pizza and trip. Like, we sprinkled, like, an eighth on like 2 or 3 slices. So I don't know how many slices are on a pizza. I can't really, I don't know. It's not information I store in my brain off top. But either way, right? So we had about like 4 or 5, 6 slices of pizza, and he's grinding up the mushrooms. We're talking, we're chatting. I'm rolling up the joints. We're just chilling, having a great time. It's a beautiful day, sunny day. Like, it's the end of summer, kind of beginning of fall. Excuse me. And really just like the vibes are flowing, we're chilling, the music's going, really can't, like, nothing to complain about, like absolutely zero complaints. And Michael finally grinds up all the mushrooms, and then we're like, we smoke a joint, like kind of before. Well, we're smoking the whole time. We smoked probably like 5-6 joints. I mean, we were just rolling back to back to back, and we get the pizza down the hatch. But it wasn't just that simple. It wasn't like we just ate it. Okay, everything's fine and dandy. No, we're sitting there struggling because here's the thing. Here's some advice, right? Like if you like grinding up mushrooms, you'd think it's like, oh, it's easier to break down, right? Really, it just creates more surface area. So you're just tasting more of the awful flavor. And for somebody that's, hasn't really adjusted to the flavor, like it can be really out there for your first time for flavor. Like, I don't know. I just thought it was disgusting. And so like, I'm choking down this pizza. Like we're barely getting these slices down. We're making a mess. This is, again, not the way to go, but it was fun. We're kind of laughing, we're kind of joking. Michael's like, dude, I don't think I can eat this shit, man. He's like, he's really like, he's telling me, he's like, I don't know if I really regret doing this. I'm like, yeah, I know, me too, but let's just get it down the hatch and we'll be good to go. So we're sitting there for probably like 45 minutes, just taking our time, really like, we're just struggling to get this pizza down, man. Like it was just completely covered in shroom dust, like more dust than toppings or even bread. Like it was just so much shroom dust. Like, ugh, just terrible. Don't do that. But either way, so we get it down the hatch, and we're starting to feel pretty good. And like I'm looking out at the view, I'm seeing the trees, I'm feeling like the colors are starting to intensify a little bit. And I'm just feeling really good. I'm feeling really happy, like really euphoric. Just like life is really good, no complaints in the world, truly. Like even though I just ate this nasty pizza, like I'm loving life. And we're looking out at the view, and we're talking, we're laughing, we're listening to music, and we're just so focused on like the come up and stuff. Like we're feeling really good looking out at the view. We don't even notice this guy walk up to our window, and he knocks on Michael. I'm driving the car. Michael's in the passenger. He's all knocking on Michael's window, and we just like we turn and we're like, oh my god, we freak out because we at first we're like, oh, what is this, a cop or something? Like, we're just like, who would be up here to really like knock on our window like that? Like it was just really weird. Well, it ends up being this construction worker, and he's telling us that, look, to get off road to this particular perch, we had to go through a gate that they were going to close because they were doing some kind of work on the cell tower up on top of the hill, right? So like this guy's like, you guys got to get out of here. Like he didn't even give a shit what we were doing. He didn't care. He's like, you guys are fine, just get out of here. I don't want to lock you guys in, you'll be stuck. And we're like, oh, that wouldn't be a good trip at all. So we slowly, because again, like I don't know if anybody knows what a 2009 Hyundai Accent looks like, but it's not exactly a truck or a Jeep. Like it's not really like made to do this type of stuff. So we're kind of like, I'm making my way as, the best I can. These guys are kind of probably thinking like, what are these idiots doing? But either way, we get out the gate, they lock it, whatever, we leave. We're literally coming up at this point. So it's like this, like, I'm not saying we're not peaking, but this is when the effects of the mushrooms are really starting to hit, and like the colors are just so intense, and like my vision is like slightly like not delayed, but it's like it's got this almost like, I don't want to say like a film to it, but like it's almost like you like turn on the HDR setting. I don't know. It's really weird. Like you see more depth and things. Like if you look at trees, or specifically one of the craziest things in my opinion to look at when you're tripping is carpet. Like it just looks so weird and trippy. And like if you look at like a Persian rug or something, it's like, I mean, that in itself is just mind blowing. But either way, the visuals are kind of starting to come on. And these weren't like the most intense visuals, truly, but for somebody's first time and like not knowing what to expect, I'm really thinking like, man, this is starting to get intense, and we still got to get home. And so we're still having a great time. We're laughing. Everything is hilarious. Like we're pointing, we're laughing. Everything we drive by, we're like, It's just hilarious. We just can't stop laughing. And I pull up to the stoplight, or this stop sign, excuse me. And, I didn't really it wasn't like a full on stop, but I certainly stopped. I mean, it really could have been longer, but I don't think that's the problem here. Because I'm looking in my rearview mirror, and because I hear like some police sirens, and I see like the flashing lights, and there's a sheriff behind me. And so I'm like, no, dude, like, I'm like, my heart is sinking because here's the thing: we didn't clean anything up. The whip reeks like marijuana. It absolutely reeks in there. We got everything out still. Like the pizza box is open in the back with like still mushroom dust everywhere. The grinder full of mushroom dust was still open on like like in the cup holders. Like everything was just out. We didn't put anything away because we're like, oh, we're literally going 2 feet across the street. It'll be fine. Well, like idiots, we deserve this because we, at the very least, should have like cleaned up our mess, and like, I don't know if it would have even mattered, but either way, that was just the first thing that really set us up for failure. And I'll never forget because the sheriff, he walks up to Michael's side, right? Because like we're kind of on a busy street and there's like a sidewalk on that side. So obviously he's not going to come up to my window. And he walks up to Michael's window and he's all, "Woo, boys, y'all been smoking in here?" Like he was just like the look on his face, I'll never forget. And he did that whole like stanky face, like, like when you like hear a really like nasty trap beat and you like make that face, he was like, "Ooh, damn, I stank." And, because it really was like we were smoking on some pack back then, don't get me wrong. And that's the first thing he says is like, "Okay, like obviously you guys have been smoking marijuana, like what, and he's right off the bat, he's a really cool cop. Like he was being really cool. Like I appreciate that, I mean, I'm very grateful that I got lucky in this case, but he's being super cool. He's like he wasn't really super worried about like the smell of weed. Like, yeah, he was and like all that, but he's not like, I don't know, like he wasn't like gonna search the car or anything. He's just like, "Okay, let me run your IDs." Like we both hand over our IDs or whatever. And like he goes and runs them or whatever. So we're sitting there and we're both freaking out. Like Michael's telling me, he's all, "Dude, like if you get pulled over on mushrooms, like they'll take you to jail because like it's considered like you're considered like legally insane, and you have to go to like, or no, you have to go to like a mental hospital before they take you to jail," because like he's telling me all of this crazy shit. And I'm sitting there thinking, because like I just got out of a psych ward. Like I didn't really get into that much before the story, not really prevalent to this story, but like a couple weeks before I had just gotten out of a psychiatric facility for like a couple weeks. So I was just locked up more or less, like not really, but considering the freedoms you have daily life, like this is closer to being locked up than anything else. Either way, I just got out, so I'm freaking out. I'm like, "Dude, I don't want to go back in there. Like that place sucked, and like all this stuff." And like we're freaking out, and he's like, "Well, why didn't you put the stuff away?" He's like all blaming me. I'm all kind of blaming him. We're kind of just like going back and forth. We're like kind of bickering. We're like, "Oh, dude, this is so screwed," and like we're fucked, And like the cop eventually comes back, and we stop talking or whatever. He's like, "Okay, what do you guys have in the car?" And I was just like straight up honest with them. I was like, "Look, officer, like," and looking back on it, it's like, it cracks me up now because I really didn't think about this at the time. I'm telling the cop, I'm like, "Look, officer, like we were just up at the top of the world, like thinking he would know, like, oh, that's like a popular spot to go to." I'm thinking like, it would just, I don't know why I was thinking that would diffuse the situation, but I thought for some reason, like, if he didn't think we're just driving around town doing nothing but smoking weed, like maybe he would, like have higher thoughts about it. Like, he would think higher of us, if you will. But either way, he's kind of like, I'm telling him, I'm like, "Yeah, we're at the top of the world." And he's looking at me like, "What are you like?" So really quickly, it's apparent to me that I'm just kind of like saying too much. I need to say less. kind of, just I'm taken back by, like, I've never been pulled over before. Excuse me. This is all a completely new experience to me, and I'm literally peaking on mushrooms. And mind you, Michael's got me all freaked out that we're gonna potentially be locked up in a psych ward while we're tripping, and that to me just sounds like a bad trip. Like going, like in anywhere, jail, anywhere, locked up, psych ward, anything. That sounds like the definition of a bad trip to me. So I'm sitting there and I'm just like, my heart is sinking. I'm really, even though this cop is cool, I'm like, I don't know, dude. I'm losing hope. Like, I'm like, this is so screwed, man. I can't believe we did this. So either way, I'm kind of telling him, he's like, okay, he's like, well, what do you guys have in the car? And I'm just like, I figure, I'm like, you know what? I'm going full honest mode. I'm not even trying to, like, I'm just like, look, officer, I got this weed. I got it from dispensary. I got it from Mom's Medicinals. All right. Like, I'm showing him I pulled the jar out. I'm showing him the jar. It's an ounce of some pack. Let me tell, like, we got pretty much still, like, not a full ounce, but it was brand new before we started smoking earlier. So it's like, there's quite a bit of weed in this jar. And he's looking at it, he actually commented, he's like, wow, this is really purple. I'm like, yeah, it's that Mom's Medicinals, it's that gas. And like, he's again, couldn't have been luckier getting this cop specifically, because he was just being super cool. And I think because we also had nothing, like when he ran our IDs, we came back clean. So it's like, I think he was, he really gave us a warning, which I still don't even know why, but I'm super grateful for. Like, realistically, probably should have got some sort of slap on the wrist for it, not just walk away with nothing. But either way, he's, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, because he's like, well, what else is in the car? He's kind of looking around. He doesn't have us get out or anything, but I'm like, well, he looks in right directly at the grinder, and he's like, oh, let me see that grinder for a minute, and I just kind of hand it to him, whatever, and he takes the deepest whiff out of this. Like, I think this cop was probably like an ex-stoner, because like he was really interested in the pack. Like, he was holding it for a minute, like checking it out, looking at it. I feel like he was probably a stoner at one point. But either way, he's and I don't know if, like, I don't know how much of a stoner, right? Because he takes this grinder, mind you, which we had only used really for the mushrooms, right? Like, for the joints, I pretty much just hand broke down the weed, like, because I don't know why, like, we thought it would be easier to grind the mushrooms up. And then, like, again, Michael was saying, like, some crazy thing, like, oh, if you smoke mushrooms, like, you'll get a lung infection, and like, it's really bad, like, all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, let's not mix mushrooms and weed, like, let's keep it separate. So this grinder was strictly for mushrooms, and the cop, he takes it, and he takes another fat whiff of this grinder, and he goes, yep, that's marijuana. Like, this guy was honestly a character, because I know damn well that grinder just smelled like booty hole. Like, there was nothing good about the smell of that grinder. And he, like, just, I don't know. Again, I don't know if he was just, like, maybe not the sharpest tool in the shed or what happened, but couldn't be more grateful for this cop. He just said, yeah, like, you guys don't do this again. Like, don't give medical marijuana a bad name or whatever. Because this is something I forgot to mention too. Like, once I showed him the weed and stuff, he's like, oh, well, do you have a medical card for this? And I was like, yeah, of course I do. It's like, and I was like, and then I had that kind of moment where it's like, you ever, like, done your homework before, and like, you go to reach for your homework in your backpack, and you're like, oh, I left it on the counter. It's like, yeah, my medical card was at home. So I'm like, officer, it's at home. I'm so sorry. All this stuff. And like, meanwhile, Michael's just sitting there, like, he almost lost it at this point, because he's like, dude, you don't have your card on you, like, all this stuff. And I'm like, like, we were both freaked out, so I don't, like, blame anyone in this situation. But it was like, I was driving the car. Michael could have easily, contributed more. Like, it was just really easy for him to sit there and be like, why didn't you clean everything up? Why didn't you do this? And again, I was kind of doing the same thing, but we should have been a little more. It was just a little bit of a mess of a situation. But either way, we finally, he lets us go, and we get back to my house, which is literally 2 feet. Like, we're not going far at all. And we get back to my house, and the first thing we do is we clean out the car. I mean, I'm coming in with the Febreze. I'm spraying it down. I'm wiping everything down. Like, we're cleaning, we're taking everything out. I got the vacuum out. Realistically, we're like almost peaking on mushrooms at this point. So I'm probably like remembering like, oh yeah, I was like, detailing this car damn near. Realistically, I probably made it worse, if anything. Like, who knows how good of a job I was really doing, but in the moment I was like, yeah, I'm out here like, I feel like a professional, I'm really getting this whip cleaned up, and yeah, we go inside and we can't stop talking about it. We're like, dude, that was the dumbest thing we've ever done. Why did we do that? Why didn't we clean up? Let's never do that again. Let's not be dumb. Let's not ever go to jail. Like, fuck that, all this shit. And we're like, yeah, like, that was really, like, we're both just like, thank God. We can't stop commenting. Like, we're so grateful to just be at my house in my bedroom, just chilling out, right? Like, we had a little wax pen still. That was kind of something we were saving for later. And this is really when the trip sort of began, because, the come up felt long. Realistically, it just felt long because, like, all the stuff that happened back to back to back, from like the moment we smoked the last joint to when the construction worker told us we needed to leave to when the cop pulled us over. Like, that all happened realistically so quick, but because of all the stuff that happened, it just felt long. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, we cannot stop commenting. Well, thank God, we're smacking this wax pen. We're talking, we're peaking at this point. And like, honestly, the visuals aren't the craziest I've ever had, but to this day, like, I'll still never forget, because like, we're sitting there on my floor, like, we're in full trip mode at this point. Like, we don't even really have the lights on. Like, we're just kind of sitting there truly enjoying like the psilocybin, like, and we're talking about some pretty like crazy shit. Like, normally in a lot of stories, it's like getting fucked up. A lot of times we'd play video games or do stuff like that, but like, the mushrooms like had me feeling so euphoric, and just like I was perfectly fine with just sitting there and doing absolutely nothing. And like, we're just talking, and he's telling me some crazy stuff, like, just about kind of like, he's really like starting to dabble into like talking about like the present moment and like more like conscious like topics that I'm kind of like, I'm just like sitting there looking at this guy. And I remember like I don't know if it was like the shadows and everything else. It must have been, because like, I was looking at him, and I remember he looked like a knight in like a suit of armor. Like, it was just like, I don't know. It was so like just beyond anything else. Like, I was just like, at the beginning of the trip, I was like expecting to like see like weird monsters and stuff for some reason, and like, the only thing I saw was just like beautiful patterns, and like, just like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know what, like, if I was like seeing like part of his aura or something, but I was just like seeing like I don't know, like, just all these details, and like it was just like weird looking at him. I was like, dude, you look crazy right now. And I was telling him that, I'm like, these visuals are getting pretty crazy. And yeah, we probably tripping for, I don't even know, deep into the night, probably like 3-4 a.m. by the time we finally kind of start winding down. But like, that whole period from when we got to my house to like pretty much when we went to bed was just a complete blur to me. Like, truly, the main memory I have from it was just sitting there. We're having this super conscious conversation, and I'm like looking at this guy, and he looks like he's like there's like this suit of armor like wrapping around him, and there's all these like patterns, and it was just such a trip. And like, I don't know, just like the feeling of it was just so incredible. Like I was hooked. Like I loved it from like this day. Like I don't know, I'm so grateful I had a super good first trip, and like it definitely could have went way worse. Like, I could have been sitting in a jail cell, or even just not in a jail cell, sitting at like a police station, or it could have been like, God forbid, like back in the psych ward. I don't know. It just could have been so much worse. And like the fact that I'm just sitting there with my friend, we're in my room, we're smacking this wax pen, and we're just playing a little bit of music on low, just kind of like enjoying the vibes. And like, yeah, I mean, I couldn't have really asked for anything better than that. Like, that was the true like miracle of the trip, was like to just be home, be safe. And yeah, after that, like we never really wanted to go back there to trip again, or really anywhere else. Like we kind of, after this, which again was my first time, but he used to take mushrooms and do crazy shit all the time. Like, but after this day, we kind of like decided, we're like, when we trip, let's really make it meaningful, and let's actually have a real location we can go to and stay at permanently, like so we don't have to drive and all this stuff. And like, yeah, it was just a really good lesson. And like the whole experience, I don't know, it could have been way worse, but yeah, I'm really grateful again, as always, to tell the story. And not my craziest mushroom story. I definitely have plenty more. Um, but the simple fact of the memory of just, getting pulled over and kind of having that mini panic attack was what really made this story so memorable to me. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.